Friends, imagine a scene where helicopters are flying in the sky. Below them stretches a vast desert as far as the eye can see, and thousands of camels are running across it. Suddenly, firing begins from these very helicopters, and within moments, the sand of the desert is covered with the bodies of camels. This is not a movie scene, nor is it a fictional tale. This is a reality of the modern and developed country Australian event that shook the entire world. A country known for animal rights. What kind of crisis did it face that it ordered the shooting of 160,000 camels within its own borders? Had camels really become such a great threat to Australia that their elimination became necessary? And the most astonishing question of all, camels were never native to Australia's. Where did these hundreds of thousands of camels come from? In today's video, we uncover this astonishing story, how an animal that once became a symbol of Australia's progress suddenly turned into a national enemy, and how the government made a decision that is counted among the major decisions of history. This story does not begin today, but about 1.5 to 200 years ago in the 19th century. This was a time when Australia was a newly settled land, and the British were establishing their colonies here. Most of Australia consists of desert, known as the Outback. This region is so dry and hot that horses or ox-drawn carts simply could not survive there. The British needed an animal that could endure hunger and thirst and walk easily on hot sand to cross this vast desert and transport goods from one place to another. That's when their eyes fell upon the ship of the desert, the camel. In the 1840s, Australia decided to import camels from India, Afghanistan, and the Middle East. This was the first time camels set foot on Australian soil. Along with the camels came skilled handlers known as Afghan camel drivers, many of whom were actually from regions that are today Pakistan and India. At first, this decision proved extremely successful. These camels became the backbone of Australia's development. Whether it was laying railway lines, installing telegraph poles, or transporting food and water to remote areas, camels carried the entire burden. For many decades, camels were heroes in Australia. But then came the beginning of the 20th century, and the world changed. Science advanced, and trucks, cars, and trains became common. Animals were no longer needed for transportation. Engine power replaced camels. This was the turning point where the story began to fall apart. When camels were no longer needed, their owners had two choices: either kill them or set them free. Most people chose compassion and released their camels into the desert, believing that these few thousand camels would eventually disappear. But nature had other plans. Australia's desert turned out to be a paradise for camels. There was nothing to stop them. Normally, wild animal populations are controlled by predators like lions, cheetahs, or wolves, but in Australia's deserts, there was no large predator capable of hunting camels. As a result, their population exploded. Experts say camel numbers doubled every 8 to 9 years. The few thousand camels that were released soon turned into millions. At one point, there were not 10 or 20,000, but over 1.2 million wild camels roaming Australia's deserts, making it the largest population of wild camels in the world. Surprisingly, even Arab countries do not have as many wild camels as Australia's wilderness. At first, no one paid much attention, but slowly, these camels began to turn into a serious problem for Australia. Because camels consume enormous amounts of water, wherever a herd passed, it would drain all nearby water sources. A thirsty camel can drink up to 200 liters of water a day. Imagine what happens when thousands of camels descend upon a single pond or lake. What is left for other animals or humans? Australia is already a dry country, often suffering from droughts. In such conditions, camels caused devastation. They not only drank from natural springs, but also entered villages and towns in search of water. Many times, thirsty camels attacked homes, smashed water tanks, ripped out garden pipes, and even broke walls just to reach water dripping from air conditioners. The problem wasn't just water, it was environmental destruction. When camels walk, their heavy feet damage the topsoil, preventing grass and plants from growing again. They began eating Australia's rare native plants, putting the local ecosystem in grave danger. Scientists also made another alarming discovery. Camels release large amounts of methane gas. The gases from their digestion contributed to pollution and global warming. Estimates suggested that Australia's millions of camels were producing greenhouse gases equivalent to millions of cars on the road. For the government, the situation had become unbearable. Farmers were distressed because camels destroyed crops and consumed grass meant for sheep and cattle. Indigenous communities were also suffering as camels polluted sacred sites and water wells. Finally, in 2009, the Australian government made one of its harshest decisions. They launched the Australian Feral Camel Management Project. The goal was clear and direct. Reduce the camel population through shooting. Nearly $19 million were allocated for this operation. The plan involved placing expert marksmen in helicopters who would shoot camels from above in remote desert areas where vehicles could not reach. Shooters were instructed to kill the animals in a way that caused the least suffering, but the reality was horrifying. Thousands of carcasses scattered across the desert created a terrifying scene. During this operation, approximately 160,000 camels were killed. This number is so vast that if their bodies were laid in a single line, camels would stretch for miles.